Hello, buen dia. Go the other mile, walk that extra mile. I was thinking of what that could mean, and then I realized that rather than think about the extra mile, I was thinking about how each and every one of us is actually going to walk there. And then Peter Sage spoke, and he spoke about running through deserts, which sort of got me thinking, oh my God, I can't do that. So I was thinking, how would most people be walking that extra mile? So obviously, normally, people would be walking like this. Some would be walking like this, as we've been going on and off the stage. The only worry is that I think that the way more and more communities around the world are walking, will be walking like this. It's a bit of a problem, because what we're doing as we walk, we're having to navigate our way around pavements, trying to work our way around people, and it's our senses, as Nita mentioned earlier, a greater appreciation and cherishing our senses will make sure that we're fully aware of where everyone is. The other thing with this is, as we're navigating, it's getting more complicated. Just as it is across the world, just as it is across all of these technologies that give us so much, it's also complicating our lives. It's making our lives more complex. We need help to navigate this. There is such change in the world. Sometimes we get lost. There's just so much stuff. So my little world, which is around marketing, I'm always thinking, well, how can businesses help to navigate this change? So what do they do about it? They do lots. The word for me is more. They do more meetings, more meetings, more meetings. They have more measures. They have more conversations, internal conversations. They have more meetings. They even have meetings on the way to meetings. Please tell me if there's anyone here who's actually walked and talked and had a meeting on the way to like this. Right? So, that's a bit of a problem as far as I'm concerned, because that isn't going to find these transformational, inspirational ideas for businesses to connect with people in a much more human way. And the other side of this is when you come to the marketing side, what do? It's more again. More messages, more advertising, more PR, more Facebook pages, just more. All that ends up with is more complexity, as far as I'm concerned. So we people who are looking for clarity, looking for a path, someone to help us through that extra mile, that person who guided that blind man through that crazy marathon, we need guidance sometimes, and brands are just not doing it. They're just making life worse. As far as I'm concerned. Is this working? There we go. So where is it ending up? It's ending up, as far as I'm concerned, with a huge issue around trust, which I think one of the earlier speakers mentioned. And I say this because, have a look at this. Advertisers, politicians, or peers, who do you think are trusted the least? Politicians. 75% in this survey from Reader's Digest, 2012, 75% of all people either trusted politicians only a little bit or not at all. Advertisers, 81%. Advertising is less trusted than politics. That says a lot. To me, that says that there's a fundamental problem in how businesses are communicating the services and products that they're offering. There's something fundamentally not working. They also talk about customer service, that the consumer is at the heart of business. And sometimes I think we have to put our hand on heart in business and in marketing particularly. We say that, but we don't really follow it through. Here's an example. I was using a toothbrush. It broke in my mouth. So being the good citizen, I went online to try and find somewhere to send a message to the company to say, this is dangerous. Slight problem, when I went to the site to find a place to complain, there was nowhere, because of course this company, no one complains. Everything is perfect. They make life difficult for me, not only to help me, but also to help them. So even if I wanted to help the business, I can't, because they've made all of these hurdles to stop people, consumers, to try and help make things better. So this is where I come to elegance, because for me, what would be most wonderful is if businesses find much more simpler, elegant, more long-lasting and constructive ways of connecting with people. And we've heard this word connection a lot. And this is where it starts with the word elegance. Dress. But that's not really what I mean. It's not about how we dress. Is it manners? It is about queuing if you're English. But what I'm really talking about is customer service. In the UK, there's a company called John Lewis Partnership. Amazing customer service. Everyone in there really wants to help you. Or it's a company from the US called Zappos, a shoe company, and they will guarantee 365-day return on any pair of shoes that you buy. Their call centers, if you phone them, will happily talk for hours with you. They're not told that they can only spend 1 minute on a phone call. They're allowed to build relationships with consumers through phone calls. That's elegance in manners. Elegance in ethics, well, there's no choice here. Because of the internet, because we're super connected, we as people are far more aware of what businesses are doing. So businesses cannot hide. In marketing, we cannot hide behind this promise of a dream. We have to deliver all the way through. So here are the 3 filters for me: behavior, ethics, and trust when it comes to elegance. But there's more. And it lies in the worlds of maths, science, and computing. Because in that world, they search for the elegant solution. The elegant solution, complex problem, how can we look at it in a slightly different way and try and find a very simple way of finding the solution, as E equals MC squared is. That is elegance. So all these people are looking for elegant solutions in how they build websites, how they find solve mathematical problems. So, where is elegance? Where is this elegance? It's everywhere. It's in nature, Fibonacci numbers, for those of you who are aware. This is a sunflower. The elegance of a sunflower that goes, well, the sun's over there, so I'm pointing there, and the sun's over there, so I move around. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Elegance in disruption, disruptive elegance. No one would think that punk rock is actually a very elegant people with all their crazy hair and everything. Brilliant, because they looked at what was happening before, all this long, pompous rock music that was very dull, and they went, we're going to go back to the basics. It's 50 seconds of noise and energy. It was just wonderful, very disruptive. Elegance in terms of traffic lights, the simplicity of 3 colors that defined how people move and stop. It's just brilliant, brilliant ideas. Elegance in terms of how we challenge accepted behavior. This is Mies van der Rohe's Farnsworth House. It's just, everything just doesn't seem right. It's not a house, but it's just one of the most beautiful constructions. Mies van der Rohe, the man who talked about less is more. That for me is an elegant phrase. The owner of Farnsworth House says, nothing happens, but everything happens. It seems so easy, but it is not easy. Truly, truly elegant phrase. There's elegance in the detail, how businesses should think about the detail. This is in the Lidmar Hotel in Stockholm, sadly gone. You go in the lift, you don't only choose what floor you want to go to, you can also choose what music you're going to listen to in the lift. Detail. It's all about the detail. It's also about elegance in the focus. Focus for the consumer, not the business. Don't focus on us, focus on the consumer. But this is where elegance starts, as far as I'm concerned. This is where elegance starts. It's about organizations. Organizations are not companies. Organizations are a collective of a huge number or a small number of people. And it's the people that make the business, not the business that make the people. We spend, what, a third of our time going to work every day? We spend a third of our day at work, so 8 hours a day maybe. A third of our working life is actually spent in an office or doing something to make money. That's fine, as long as we get appreciated, as long as the energy and the passion and the ideas that we have are truly harnessed within this working environment. It's crazy for an organization to not truly harness all of this passion and talent. It's a fundamental problem. So elegance starts with the people. So, I thought, what about an elegant manifesto? I thought, no, that doesn't work. So I thought, what about Das Tripas Coração manifesto? There we go. Thank you. And I tried hard on the pronunciation there. I hope you noticed. Thank you. So what's this manifesto? The thing is, not coming on first means that you can lay out all of your little ideas, but coming halfway through, you've got all of these fantastic, fantastic speakers who, in my mind, have defined elegance today, have defined complex problems. When e-patient Dave said, well, all there is complexity. I'm going to find a way through this. When Nita says, okay, this is my life, but I'm not going to hold on to this. I'm going to move forward. I've got more in my life. When we heard from Peter Sage talking about, I've got to get off that rock. This is all about, these are elegant people. That for me is fantastic and truly inspiring. So let's have a look at my little contributions. I've heard this before from one of the speakers. Listen, we tend to like talking, but we're not very good at listening. Businesses and individuals within business, we have to learn the art of listening again. But it's also talking to the person, not the badge. It's quite often in here, what we all do, we start looking at the badge before we look at the face. Let's just look at the face and talk to the person. I don't care whether you're the global president of some big corporation or you're just someone who delivers milk in the morning. I don't care. What can I learn and be inspired by from this person? How can I help that person? The collaboration that was talked about earlier. So talk to the person, not the badge. Second of all, this is my big thing, is challenge meaningless language. A good friend of mine worked for a company, and this was, when I asked him what they do as a company, he said, we are a total solutions company. Total solutions company. It took me 15 minutes to finally get out of him exactly what they do. And now he would never ever mention those words again, because he's sort of weaning himself off the addiction of management speak. And it's so important to get rid of this and just talk normally. It's quite easy, but it seems to be really hard. Politicians, or, the list is endless. So speak is my second one. Third one, be curious. We're all curious in our own way, but it's something that we truly need to find that extra effort, that extra energy to go and discover new things. To, yes, read books. Yes, to go and find interesting blogs on science or something. I'm not a scientist, but it's fascinating to hear different perspectives, because that's where you find this alternative thinking to try and find the answers to complex problems. You have to open your mind up. That, for me, is where the curiosity comes. I've suggested 15%. There's many of you, I'm sure, in the room who you spend your whole life being highly curious. Fourth one is peace and quiet, privacy and space. Now, see if I get any agreement from the audience. How many of you come up with your best ideas in the shower? Just before you fall asleep? When you go to the park? There's something quite interesting in these spaces, is quite often the mobile phone's not with you. You're not connected. So we talk about connectivity, but in order to open your mind up, sometimes you have to disconnect from the technology in order to breathe. So there's sometimes a need for this peace and quiet. I honestly, sometimes in business, we're so focused on the problem, we go into what's called the brainstorm, and we've got to come out of the brainstorm and have the idea. It doesn't work that way. We have to find ways of opening our minds up and for me, space, finding time for space every day is extremely important. And there's nothing more important in terms of breaking down this words, I don't have time. And this for me is an example of where people had no time, but they managed to find the time to do extraordinary things. Station X. Bletchley Park is a place in England which isn't that famous, but it's a little bit famous, for where, in the Second World War, a number of strange characters, mathematicians, Egyptologists, cryptologists, crossword puzzle lovers, chess champions, all came together, and they were challenged with trying to decode the messages of the enemy. They knew they had to solve those problems. They knew that if they didn't, lives were at stake. They knew time was against them. They didn't need to be told that. But at the same time, in the world, that this little place that they worked, at the same time, they had amateur dramatics. They had tennis games. They had a park and a lake. And they sat by the lake and they contemplated life. That doesn't feel like there was any pressure on them to deliver while people were dying. There was no pressure on them. But what was important was the structure around them. Because these are the guys, some of these names up there, who personally think should be more well-known than they are, some of these names are some of the founders of the modern computer age. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing with iPhones if it wasn't for some of these names. It's phenomenal what they did, but it was the environment which they were allowed to think that was really, really critical. No hierarchies. They didn't have to wear uniforms. They didn't have to report. They didn't have to fill in forms and Excel spreadsheets. And they didn't have to keep telling everyone what they've done and justifying what they're going to do. They just did it because they were trusted to do things and be extraordinary people. A phenomenal example of, in my mind, what is elegance. And what this really, in my way, would be summed up is this quote. Because this is where, for me, it all starts. The only real elegance is in the mind. If you've got that, the rest really comes from it. It all starts with us. It all starts with this. It all starts with appreciating and believing that we've got more to offer. It all is also about we've got more to offer to others, to collaborate, to share, to try and contribute in some sort of way. So that's what I'd leave you with. But what I would ask you to do one thing, if you'd like to. Don't have to, if you'd like to. In your little booklets, if you fancy it, rip a page out, and during the break, just write down what your contribution would be for everyone else in this room in terms of how to go the extra mile, how to be more elegant in what we do. A little example, it could be a little drawing, a little poem, just something. Because after all, we're speakers, but it's about gaining from you and having your contribution too. So if you'd like to participate, please do. One piece of paper, there's a table over there, just pop it on the table if you'd like to, and then we'll find a way of sharing it so you can have a look after the event. But on that note, I would leave you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations. Thank you.